Welcome to DIY World Improvement. I'm your host, Catherine Carlozzi. Over the past 3 years, I've introduced WBCR listeners to a diverse group of individuals determined to leave the world a better place than they found it. I call them do-it-yourself world improvers. Passionate, energetic, committed, and creative, they are attuned to the planet's social inequalities, issues, and needs, and have found direct and original ways to address them. Figuring out the how is usually no small feat, and it often takes them outside their comfort zones. But once they start making things happen, they generally can't stop, which is why I periodically check in with past guests to find out what they're up to now and report back to our listeners. One of my earliest guests was Jane Hanson, founder of Partners for Women in Justice. The Montclair, New Jersey-based nonprofit provides free, quality legal assistance to low-income and abused women in matters pertaining to domestic violence and family law. It also promotes financial competence and independence so that women can build a stable life for themselves and their children. Partners celebrates its 10th anniversary this year, and I asked Jane to reflect on that milestone. You didn't pick the easiest time when you left your job as a corporate lawyer to follow a dream. It was post 9/11, the dot-com bubble had just burst, but you and your co-founder for Partners for Women in Justice pulled together some used furniture and some used office equipment. You did without a salary, and you opened the doors and the phone lines of your new nonprofit. Did you ever imagine that you'd be celebrating your 10th anniversary?
We didn't. We couldn't think that far in the future. Our dreams were more short-term than that because there was so much to do to get the organization up and running. We had to either fundraise or help clients. We didn't have the capacity to do both at the same time for the longest time. But eventually, towards the end of 2003, we got some good news on grants, and it gave us traction, and little by little, year by year, we built our capacity both in terms of raising funds and hiring staff. And so I pinch myself sometimes, and I think our trustees pinch themselves that it has been 10 years of operation, and we're a really strong organization now. We have a lot of traction, and we're looking forward to building the organization for another 10 years.
Were there times when you had doubts about your decision to go in this direction?
Absolutely. There were many times when I didn't think it was going to work. The challenges just were daunting in terms of ever imagining that we could raise enough money to pay one person, let alone the staff of 9 that we have now. And I think also for our trustees, there were times when it seemed like a daunting task to them. But we persisted, we prevailed. I think I told you in our last interview that my husband had a mantra, which was, failure's not an option.
I do remember that.
And as corny as that is, it's pretty powerful. And so one just keeps moving forward.
How does the reality of Partners for Women in Justice today compare with the dream you had when you started out? You said you didn't even envision 10 years, but has it taken you where you hoped it would?
Very definitely, and then some, I would say. Our original concept was to utilize the services exclusively of pro bono attorneys. We came to realize over the years that as wonderful as those attorneys are, especially and attorneys like Allison Villano, whom you interviewed last time, there are just too many cases to be able to serve all of our clients just through the services of pro bono attorneys. Right now, pro bono attorneys contribute more than $1 million in services to our client on a yearly basis. But there are some cases that come in that require a really quick turnaround time, require running into court that very second. Other cases that have a long and complicated history that would be hard for a pro bono attorney to be able to devote all the time needed to that type of case. There are cases that involve disputes between states as to what state has jurisdiction to hear a case. And so what we came to realize is that we really needed to have attorneys on staff We really needed to be like a law firm and have attorneys who could counsel clients or go into court on their behalf. And so now that's what we have. And the combination of the staff attorneys and the pro bono attorneys, in addition to our close working relationship with Rachel Coalition's attorney, gives our clients a lot of options to get legal assistance. And we now serve about 450 women a year.
Over the decade, what have you seen in terms of trends with regard to both your clients and the legal environment?
Well, sadly, with respect to our clients, the need has not diminished.
I know it was your hope to put yourself out of business.
Yes, it just has not diminished. There have been several fatalities in our area in the last year as a result of intimate partner violence, and so that continues, and it's hard to grapple with that. One would hope that would diminish over time, but it doesn't seem to be happening. In terms of the legal environment, the law in New Jersey is a very strong law, one of the best in New Jersey. The challenge that our clients face and that a lot of individuals face throughout the state in dealing with domestic violence is the rotation of judges through family court. The new judges are not as familiar with the law as judges that have been on the bench for a while. So there's always an education process for new judges in terms of the law and applying the law. The other challenge for many individuals going into family court on domestic violence matters is the overwhelming number. It's just overwhelming to the judges. It's a very challenging docket for them. In Essex County alone, it's something like 4,000 or 5,000 new cases a year. That's compounded by the fact that in Essex County, there are some judicial vacancies that have been vacant for a few years. Mm-hmm. And so that makes life harder for people in Essex County who are seeking the protection of the courts.
Jane, it's been 2.5 years, actually, since that last interview we did. And I know that a number of things have changed. One thing is you established the Partner in Hope Fellow.
Yes, that is very, very exciting, and that is a fellowship program here at Partners for an attorney who is dedicated to representing victims of domestic violence, our clients, providing advice and counsel to them. We started that in July of 2012, so we just finished our first year, and we're continuing again this year, and we are optimistic that we'll be able to continue that indefinitely. It gives us a ready resource for handling the more difficult cases that I mentioned before.
Mm-hmm. And I know that also last year, New Jersey's First Lady, Mary Pat Christie, honored you as a New Jersey hero, and that came with a $10,000 grant.
Well, actually, there were two components to that. The award itself came with a $5,000 award to Partners. Mrs. Christie, New Jersey Heroes, instituted a grant program open just to their honorees, and we submitted a grant application and received $10,000, which is helping to fund the fellowship. That was a turning point for the organization. And I said as much to Mrs. Christie when I saw her at her reception that the donation of $5,000 was really wonderful. It was a surprise. It came at a good time for us. But the credibility that the award gave to the organization was really priceless. And it excited so many of our supporters. It excited our trustees. It really energized people to continue the work that they are doing to support the organization. Mrs. Christie came to visit and asked that a client attend and one of the pro bono attorneys. And so we had two clients there and an attorney who represented one of them. And we spent 40 minutes talking about the issues. It was so empowering for the clients in the first place, for the pro bono attorneys, for our staff, for our trustees, for everybody who was present. And it really was a turning point, and I think made it possible for us to think about the next 10 years. And one of the things that we have decided to do is to build on the traction that we've gained over these past 10 years for the next 10 years. And we've instituted a major gifts campaign to make sure we're around for another 10 years.
You've talked a lot about your board of trustees and how much you rely on them. When we did our first interview, you were thinking of adding a junior advisory board. Your board of trustees has grown and the advisory board is a reality. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, the Board of Trustees, they're just terrific. Right now there are 15 individuals in addition to me, and these 15 people work really, really hard to advocate for partners, to be an ambassador for partners, and to raise money for partners. And they're very dedicated, very hardworking, and very successful at what they do. The Junior Advisory Board is a mostly fundraising. It's comprised of very energetic 20-somethings who are very excited about educating their peers as to the issues related to intimate partner violence and to raising money for us. They have events a couple of times a year. In fact, they just had a spin event in New York City that raised more than $5,000. Altogether, they raised between $15,000 and $20,000 for partners. So they are a terrific asset for us and very enthusiastic about the work, and it's an opportunity for us to reach out to the younger generation, the next generation, and they're reaching out to their peers. They're terrific ambassadors for the organization.
It's also an opportunity to cultivate people who can ultimately become part of your board.
Absolutely.
Which is an important element of future growth.
Absolutely. They've also introduced us to a partnership with NYU law students. Their domestic violence advocacy project. Having them in the fold is a real boost to partners and to our clients.
Jane, what do you see for the next 10 years?
Well, we're definitely going to be here in another 10 years, and I don't think I could have said that 10 years ago. Back to your first question.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we will be here, and we have just concluded some strategic planning, and we're looking at opportunities for affecting systemic change in the system in New Jersey, as well as opportunities to expand beyond our current geographical reach.
Well, I look forward to interviewing you on your 20th anniversary. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you, and thank you for caring.
The official 10th anniversary celebration is October 22nd, and I'm planning on being there among the guests to help Jane and her colleagues celebrate. You can learn more about partners at pfwj.org. Periodically check in with past guests to find out what they're up to now and report back to our listeners. One of my earliest guests was Jane Hanson, founder of Partners for Women in Justice. The Montclair, New Jersey-based nonprofit provides free, quality legal assistance to low-income and abused women in matters pertaining to domestic violence and family law. It also promotes financial competence and independence so that women can build a stable life for themselves and their children. Partners celebrates its 10th anniversary this year, and I asked Jane to reflect on that milestone. You didn't pick the easiest time when you left your job as a corporate lawyer to follow a dream. It was post 9/11, the dot-com bubble had just burst, but you and your co-founder for Partners Welcome to DIY World Improvement. I'm your host, Catherine Carlozzi. Over the past 3 years, I've introduced WBCR listeners to a diverse group of individuals determined to leave the world a better place than they found it. I call them do-it-yourself world improvers. Passionate, energetic, committed, and creative, they are attuned to the planet's social inequalities, issues, and needs, and have found direct and original ways to address them. Figuring out the how is usually no small feat, and it often takes them outside their comfort zones. But once they start making things happen, they generally can't stop, which is why Partners for Women in Justice pulled together some used furniture and some used office equipment you did without a salary, and you opened the doors and the phone lines of your new nonprofit. Did you ever imagine that you'd be celebrating your 10th anniversary?
We didn't. we couldn't think that far in the future. Our dreams were more short-term than that because there was so much to do to get